Okay, so the Module 2 SLP deals with developing a personal balance sheet. Welcome to Finance 397, Module 2 session long project. So for the SLP2 assignment, you want to download the blank personal balance sheet template in the hyperlink and complete it accurately. That hyperlink is in your MyTLC for Finance 397. It's in the course materials for the SLP2. You want to write a 2 or 3 page balance sheet analysis, including your title page, with a brief analysis of your balance sheet, including an explanation of comparison of your assets to the related liabilities, your debt to equity ratio, and your quick ratio. So what is your ratio of debt to equity, and what's your quick ratio? That's going to be part of your balance sheet analysis. You're going to compare your assets to your liabilities as well. You want to upload your completed personal balance sheet and your balance sheet analysis to your Module 2 SLP Dropbox. You don't need a reference page for this assignment. So you may be wondering, what is my quick ratio? Your quick ratio is the ratio of your current assets to your current liabilities. For a business, quick ratio is current assets minus inventory over current liabilities. But because you're looking at a personal balance sheet and not a business balance sheet, you're just going to take your current assets over your current liabilities. So that's your quick ratio. That shows your ability to satisfy, because remember, your current assets are your assets that you can liquidate within 5 days, let's say, and your current liabilities are your liabilities you have to pay within a year. So that shows your current ability to pay all of your debts for the next year. So if that ratio is at least 1-to-1, it means you got enough stocks, cash, etc. around to satisfy all your debts that are due within a year. Now, do you need to have enough cash around to satisfy your debts that are due 30 years from now, like your 30-year mortgage? No, you don't. So, that's why the quick ratio just looks at liabilities that are payable within a year, i.e. the current liabilities, and your ability to satisfy those with your current assets. So that's your quick ratio. Your ratio of assets to liabilities includes all current and long-term assets over current and long-term liabilities. That should ideally be 1.0 or greater. If it is, you have a positive net worth. Same thing for the current ratio. If it's 1.0 or greater, you have the ability to satisfy all your current liabilities within 1 year. So that's the assignment. You want to, for the expectations for the SLP2, you want to develop your personal balance sheet. You want to write a 2 or 3 page balance sheet analysis. No references are required. The 2 to 3 pages does include your title page, so basically 1 to 2 pages without the title page. Have a brief analysis of the balance sheet. Is there enough stuff here for me to satisfy all the liabilities? Are the current assets enough to satisfy the current liabilities? And what's the biggest problem? What's the biggest liability that's holding you up, and how could you deal with that? How could you restructure it or pay it off? So you want to upload both documents to the Module 2 SLP Dropbox. Okay, this is the balance sheet template, and if you take the first column and divide it by the second column, that is your quick ratio. So your quick ratio is current assets over current liabilities. Okay, so this is the second page of the personal balance sheet, and here you have your long-term assets, your long-term liabilities. So to compute your total asset to liability ratio, you want to use the blue line, the third line up from the bottom, that says total assets, total liabilities. So take your current assets from the first page, add them to your total assets from the second page, and then divide that by the current liabilities from the first page plus the long-term liabilities from the second page. So current assets plus long-term assets divided by current liabilities plus long-term liabilities equals total assets to liabilities. That is the blue line there, the blue line on the left divided by the blue line on the right. The blue line is everything. It's the total assets, both current and and long term, and the blue line on the right hand side is the total liabilities, current and long term. You divide those two numbers by each other, you wind up with the ratio of assets to liabilities. Again, if that's 1.0 or greater, you're in good shape. If it's less than 1.0, you probably want to talk about things you can do to improve that, to maybe pay down some debt or something. That means if the ratio is less than 1.0, it means that you have more debt than you have liabilities, than you have assets. Now, I've seen people do this because they forget to include their house on column A. They forget to include their house on the left-hand side under long-term assets, but they include their $400,000 mortgage on the right-hand side. Well, that'll give you a negative net worth, but that's not really right because your house is worth at least $400,000 if you have a $400,000 mortgage. Your house is probably worth $500,000. So that probably give you a positive net worth. So just keep that in mind. If the ratio is a lot less than 1, maybe maybe you aren't in terrible financial shape. You just forgot to include something on the asset column, right? Or vice versa. If the ratio looks too good to be true, maybe you're missing a liability. So that's kind of a sanity check to make sure your balance sheet makes sense. Thank you. That concludes my discussion for the SLP2.